You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to share your story with us. I am incredibly grateful. So let's start at the beginning. How did you meet your partner, and when did you know there was problems?
Well, just want to start by saying thank you for having me
You're welcome.
do this podcast. I met my husband 27 years ago. I'm sorry, we were married for 18 years. 27 years ago in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was a junior and he was a senior, and we had English class together. And I remember it well, looking across the room, and we just connected. We just connected right away. And it wasn't many days into that class, into that year, that junior year, that I said, I'm going to marry him. And his charm, his charisma, his good looks, his personality, funny as heck. Oh, he could just make me laugh. He just made me feel so special. And so yeah, that's where I met him, and that's where our relationship started.
Now, could you tell right away that he was having a drinking problem, or when, because your husband suffers from alcoholism, correct? Is there any other addictions that he's struggling with?
So the alcoholism was just the one in the front. He would occasionally dabble in cocaine. Over the years, he would have, I'm sure, had a porn addiction as well. That was an addiction it wasn't an addiction per se that it completely monopolized him, but he got all of his pleasure to himself. Does that make sense how I'm saying that?
Makes total sense. Yep.
Yeah, I was really a afterthought a lot. So you had said, did I notice any red flags in the beginning? Not in the beginning. So he was 18 and I was 17, and not in the beginning. I didn't notice anything.
When did you start to wonder or worry? Do you remember when you started having those thoughts?
Yes, I do. So we dated on and off until he was 21. And then he broke up with me, and he had broken up with me several times in between there. Now, I wouldn't have ever said I noticed a drinking problem because I didn't know what that looked like. My family was just, straight and narrow, real nice family, worked hard, good morals. I didn't know what that looked like. Now that I look back, going through my 18 years of marriage and the 27 years of knowing him, yes, I'd spot it in a heartbeat. Lots of different things. But growing up with him and partying with him and just enjoying that lifestyle, because it was fun and he was exciting. He was so exciting. Wow, just knew how to have a good time. And he was very gentlemanlike in the beginning. So I would say so I had said we had broken up when he turned 21. He wanted to go party. And I was like, you know what? I am moving away from here. I just need to get away from him. He has such a hold over me. That's the first thing I started feeling like, what is this hold that he has over me? I shouldn't feel so attached to him. So I decided to just pack up and move. My aunt lived in Colorado, and we had visited there quite a bit as a kid, and I decided to move out there. And it wasn't long that I lived there that he started calling me. And that same weakness just started to break me down again. As I was building myself back up, I had started dating somebody else, and life was going good. I was working 2 jobs. I miraculously found some people from where I was from, asked me if I wanted to be their roommate, and I was like, fabulous. Yeah, I said I'm up for anything. I'm up for anything. And but like I said, it might have been like 2 months, 3 months in. He would call me every Sunday night. And, I think back to that Sunday night now, and I know that was a sober night. He had clarity then. I always call it clarity. Alcoholism to me, what I've learned about it through your program, through living it, my husband had a drinking problem such as he would drink, and then for a couple of days he'd be great. And I was always like, what is that? Then I could slowly see the agitation building, the, discontentment. That might be a good way to say it, where he was looking again. He needed something again. And it was the alcohol. It was the being drunk. It was like clearing his mind out. I don't know how to describe what I'm trying to exactly say, but it was just like kind of clear his brain out, and then he would be good again. Well, backtrack to the 21. He called me every Sunday night, and I was slowly falling back into love and, back into like, oh, we can make this work. And he moved out there with me. And that was when the real red flags started to show even stronger, because now I lived with him. So, yeah.
What were some of those red flags when he moved in with you?
Just the fact that he needed to be drunk once or twice a week. It wasn't like we could, miss those couple times a week drunk. Like, we could go a few days, and we always got ready for our job. And, when you classify those high functioning alcoholics, or like just an alcoholic husband, or the high functioning, I really like those. He was a high functioning alcoholic. And he never missed a beat. So fast forward a little bit, the red flags were starting to happen, fighting a little bit at the bar, jealousy, a little bit of rage when drinking too much. The dry drunk, I like to brush on that a bit. If he was drunk, let's say on a Friday, then we would, let's take 3 days off, but you can see the agitation building. You can see the discontentment starting to boil, and it's time to be drunk again. And, I think back to Colorado, and I think back to my roommate saying, what exactly are you doing? And I said, I'm not really sure, but it didn't change my mind, because he needed me, and that felt good. And that felt really good. Just did. I wanted to help him. I wanted to be there for him. I just saw his heart. It was so good, and he just had me. He had me. So 3 years into Colorado, definitely not a good situation. The neighbor lady who lived down below us had commented, I fight a lot. And I thought, when she said that, it hurt me. I was like, yeah, we do. But I'm not going to change anything. But it hurt.
Yeah. So what happened next?
So 3 years, we decided to move back to our hometown. My granddad had passed away suddenly, and I was now searching for a way out of this relationship in my subconscious mind. I know that's what I was doing. Colorado was kind of wrecked. I wanted to get out of there. So, it was an argument. He liked it out there. He comes from a home where his father was an alcoholic, and he had nothing back here that he really wanted to come home for. But he really loved me, or the stability of me. I think it was more the stability of me. So he packed up and came along with me. As we came back here, I was raised in a religious home, and my mom and my husband and I lived together, and my
Mhm.
mother put a little pressure on me that it made her really sad we weren't married. And I look back at that, and I've learned so much from that too, now raising my own children, my daughter and son, where that pressure is just so bad. It's so bad for kids. It's so bad for people to feel they need to live up to someone else's standards to be okay, to make it okay. Because
Totally.
I then pressured him to marry me, knowing full well this was a bad choice. But
Mhm.
I did it anyway to make other people happy.
Mm. Mm.
So fast forward 3 weeks before the wedding, I almost called it off. I said to my mom, this isn't right. And she's like, that's fine, you can call it off. And she was really good about that. But then clarity came for him, and he took me out for dinner and said all the right things and made me
Yeah.
feel wonderful. And I said,
Yeah.
oh, I can do this. This is going to be okay. And there's the hamster wheel that just you cannot get off of until you decide to get off. So as I continue on, he was 27 and I was 26, and he got his first DUI. And I said, "What? You need to quit drinking. Like this
Mhm.
can't continue. We're breaking the law." And he quit. And this is the first time we've tried to quit. So this is my little mind, my small town mind. I want to call it small town because I've never seen anything like this. So when someone says they're going to quit, I thought that that's what they meant.
Mhm.
So we talk about having children. He's only sober maybe 6 weeks. That felt like a lifetime when you lived with somebody drunk a lot. It was
Mhm.
awesome. It was awesome. And we got pregnant right away. And I think it was only 1 month later then that he had went back to drinking after me being pregnant. So we had our daughter, and I remember being just frightened so often of more, him getting in trouble with the law because, as you know, and as we talk about all the time, it's so progressive.
Mhm.
So his once a week drunk or twice a week now was turning into 3 times a week. And the effectiveness of the clarity was wearing off, sooner. The boredom was starting to set in because now, the dopamine level needs to be refreshed and refreshed more because the body is
Mhm.
saying, hey, this isn't enough. I'm bored. This isn't enough for
Mhm.
me, just a child and a um wife here. I need a little bit more stimulation than all this. And years went on again, and we've wrecked 2 more cars now. Now we got away with these. Those were hit and runs, and he somehow got away, but still got, some damage done here. 2 more cars. We're getting more and more into debt. The debt is just growing and growing and growing. And because addiction's expensive and smoking's expensive, and
Mhm.
now I'm working 2 jobs, raising our daughter for the most part on my own. I would like to recognize that he would have her Saturdays when I could work by myself, and he really did usually hold up to his end of the deal, which a lot of times you don't find that. But
Mhm.
I would like to recognize that that did happen. And as she grew up, I knew I didn't want any more children with him. I knew it wasn't a good situation.
Mhm.
And some crazy weekend, it happened. I didn't think I could have any more children. I had a partial hysterectomy with Haley. I'm sorry, my daughter. That's okay. She won't. And and I didn't think that the second time would happen, but it did. Wow. 7 years later.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have
So
a
how
wonderful
did you feel?
son.
You have a wonderful son. Well, that
I have a
worked out
wonderful
well.
son.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
he's awesome. I felt mixed. I remember my sister saying to me, "Are you okay?" And I said, yes and no. I also remember, Michelle, a lot of pressure to have that second child. I come from kind of a conservative town, and people would be like, well, you need to give a sibling. And I thought, well, if you only knew what I'm living with, you would say, well, you don't do that. But, you know, it gets in your head, and you think, well, I'm doing somebody a disservice by not doing this. I was very much a pleaser in that way, and yeah. So we had our son, and I remember coming home from the hospital, and he was in the car driving, and he said, I'm really sorry. I had some guys over last night while you were in the hospital, and mind you, he doesn't have our daughter. He's having guys over. I'm in the hospital. And I wet the couch. I couldn't do stairs. I had a C-section. I said, what? I said, where am I going to go? He's like, well, I
You
cleaned
mean
it up.
he wet the, I'm so sorry, I need to clarify. So you mean to say he wet the couch as in like he urinated on the couch or like he spilled a beer on the couch?
He urinated on the couch.
Okay. On your and your bedroom's upstairs.
Yes.
Oh my
He had a very, very, very bad problem with wetting the bed after he was drinking. And when I say a bad problem, I mean in the last 18 years, once a week our bed or our couch. So I had protectors on these things once I realized they were available. I didn't even think that, I think until Amazon came out, come to think of it, I mean, life just was a lot harder. But when you had Amazon, you can just, punch anything in and you're like, oh, so I can get something to protect this from, wrecking all of our things. We went through 4 mattresses in 18 years, which is kind of a lot. Yeah.
Wow. So you got sheet protectors or mattress protectors on the bed, but what did you do about the couch?
Well, they actually make these protectors that do fit on the couch. They're basically, you have to tuck them in the sides and things, but they worked quite well. Okay. But I didn't have it on that couch. This was before Amazon was hot. I didn't even have a smartphone, so it was my son is 10, so it's 10 years ago, and
I get it.
So this couch was, I remember my niece coming over one time saying, Auntie, it smells like pee on here. And I can half chuckle about it now, Michelle, but it's not funny. It's gross.
Right.
It's bodily fluids. So it was sad. And I had nowhere to lay that wasn't soiled.
Oh, bless your heart. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
I knew he used to wet the bed, but I didn't know about the couch situation. And here you are with a C-section after surgery. All you want to do, you have to lay down. You cannot climb stairs. And you are subjected to this. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. So what happened? What did you do?
Well, I didn't do anything because at that point, Haley's in the car and yelling, and it just wouldn't have helped. So I just went home and put the blankets on and did
Oh,
what I had to do to
of course.
make
Of
the
course.
best of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think this problem is, we talked about this before, but like, it is such a common problem. I've heard it for 12 years consistently. One of the things is urinating the bed, and nobody talks about it. So I absolutely love that you are. I'm so grateful, and I know so many women out there listening right now can relate to you. And I know that,
Yeah, because
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, please,
It's
go ahead.
it's embarrassing, and you want to protect them, and you're so embarrassed that, well,
Mm.
I'm actually letting somebody urinate on me. Like, this is not okay, and the whole thing is it's just embarrassing. And I just want, everyone to know that, hey, I lived that, and I understand how you feel, and it's awful. It's absolutely awful. And I remember thinking to myself so many years in, what am I normalizing? Especially when my daughter was catching on to it. She's like, what in the heck? And I'm like, what am I normalizing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. It's amazing what we normalize. It's amazing how chaotic and
Amazing.
traumatic our lives get, and we just can't see what is, just how awful it's gotten. So, okay, so you came home with your son, and now your son is 10. What happened over the next couple of years?
The drinking just progressed. I mean, he still had his sober nights here and there, and that's what kept me clinging. I would just cling. I
Mm-hmm.
was, I guess we tried to separate maybe, 7 or 8 years ago. It never worked. We tried to separate again 2 years ago. It didn't work. When he actually left 2 years ago, he did leave for a month. The drinking was just so bad, and everything that goes with it. And I don't probably need to explain that to anybody out there, but I would say the new Netflix series, The Maid, sums it up perfectly. I recommend that to anybody. The emotional abuse. I was never physically abused, but the emotional abuse that I dealt with at times, it was just astounding. And
Yeah, I love that
2
series.
years,
It's a great one. Yep.
so good. So 2 years ago we did move out, and the heartbreak that I felt so sad. I thought, it's so funny because I thought life would just instantly, like I Dream of Jeannie, like this is just going to go right into, wow, this is great. We don't have to live with this anymore. Everything's groovy. Nobody's drinking. It's peaceful. It wasn't like that, Michelle. I was so sad. I never felt so sad. I was saying goodbye to my family, everything I had longed for it to be, and then when they get away from you, and I just want to really hit this point home, when they leave, all of a sudden, that podcast you did on feeling crazy, you feel like you're crazier than ever because this never even happened. I don't even remember being a drinker. And I think the reason you feel that way, or you can kind of go there, is because you live in such a 24-hour state of mind. Like, if they're drunk on a Friday night, by Saturday night they're sober, or now they want to be a family man, I'm forgiving them, I'm loving them, it's wonderful. When they're drunk again Sunday now. And you're always in this cycle of not knowing, and then also the forgiving and the drunk, then you're forgiving and we're family guy again. So when they leave, and they leave in like a heat of the moment of an argument, or they're really drunk, well then by the next day I miss him. It's just kind of, it's a cycle that, it's, for some people they just would never understand unless you live in it. This is
Totally.
why this group is so wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Because you don't,
So,
you people will give you like some of the most loving, wise human beings on this earth will give you the worst advice because
worse.
they don't understand. You can't relate. You know,
No.
they don't understand what the reality of your world is like because it sounds crazy. You know, nobody else would live this kind of life. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're exactly
Yeah.
right.
And I
So
think the
so you
trauma, oh, go ahead.
right. No, please go ahead. You go ahead.
So I think the trauma of the, the fight or flight and all of that built in, it just compounds when, you're so used to the makeup, the fight, the makeup, the fight, you're just so used to the cycle that, you really have to, you're so addicted yourself, you really have to break free in a way that it's going to be hard. It's going to be the hardest thing you ever did. But
How
I'm
did you
still
do
hoping
it?
it's
Because I know
so.
we know the ending of the story, which is you left.
Yes, I'm
So,
separated now 4 months.
yeah. How is that going? And how are you doing that? And what was the straw that broke the camel's back per se? Like, how did you
Yeah,
arrive at this place? Share
yeah,
your secrets with women who are sitting here going, I know I need to leave too. You're describing my story, but how do I possibly make that happen for myself?
totally. And it totally was the straw, and that's
Mhm.
great, perfect. I think it was March of this year that I had just reached out to not even a good friend, but as you know, I was in LOA for years, and there's something that really stood out to me that you said, and it was, I can't wait till you guys don't need me anymore. And I think that was possibly 5 or 6 years ago, Michelle. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not even sure when I joined. It's been so long ago, but it's been a long time that I've been faithful in your podcast every week. But either way, it was March, and I was like, I still need her. I still really need her. And not to say that's a bad thing, because that's not where I'm going with this.
I know.
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. But it's like, one day I won't need you. And I had reached out because, your dream boards, and there was this community I always wanted to live in. It was in my kids' school district. I was adamant I didn't want them to have to change if I made any changes, because I knew it would be super hard on my son, a little bit easier on my daughter. So I reached out to a lady who lived in the school district, and I said, hey, do you know any houses that are going up for sale? I really think I'm ready to file for a divorce. And she said, the reason I know her, she mentors my daughter time to time. Her father was an alcoholic, and I got Haley hooked up with her because Haley struggles more with her father than my son. And she got back to me in 3 weeks and said they were listing their house.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. That's great.
And I said, the universe and God, same thing in a way, were on my side. Yep. And the process was daunting. Nothing was easy. It made me work and fight and claw the whole way out. The mortgage process, my parents bought it, they're older, everything. It was trying to stop me, but I kept pressing on. But the last straw, which is what you talked about, it was April 29th, and I'll never forget it. My son and I came home. I picked him up from school, and my husband had walked in the door that morning and said he walked out of his job. He'd been there 15 years, always been more of a hothead, but, he's managed to hold a job for very long for, his situation. And at that point in my life, I just didn't let things like that bother me anymore. I hadn't had this house secured at that time, but even with that, I was of the mentality now I was going to make it no matter what. So it just didn't even faze me. I was like, okay, well, we talked a little bit about it, but I just didn't let it faze my day. And years past, my word, I would have been a wreck, barely able to function through the day. It would have been like holding me hostage. So anyway, my daughter had a lacrosse game that evening, and my son had soccer practice, and he was supposed to take him to practice that night. Well, a thunderstorm came up, and I came home from work with my son and couldn't find my husband anywhere. And I went upstairs, and there he was, passed out, drunk, and wet all over the bed. Urinate, want to clarify that. And luckily, though, practice had been canceled. My daughter still had her lacrosse game, though. I went down to my son, and I said, hey, do you want to come with Mom? It was a close-by game, a high school game. Or did you want to stay here? You have your iPod. You can play your games. I said, Dad's upstairs sleeping. He said, Mom, I'd really like to stay home. I'm tired, and I like this free night because I don't have soccer. I said, that's fine. I said, just call me if you need me. My phone's going to be on. And, in most times, with my husband doing that, he would wake up then and be ready to go, fine. He wouldn't be active or something, but it wouldn't be like my son was in any danger. Let's put it that way. So we went out to the game, and I got a call from my son, and he said, Dad's awake, and Aaron's here. Aaron's one of his drinking buddies. I said, oh, well, what are they doing? Well, they're in the garage drinking, Mom. I said, okay, well, I'm coming home. I said, I'll be home in about 15 minutes. I said, this game's only 5 minutes left. He said, okay, Mom, I'm going to go back to my video game. Okay. He called again. He said, are you coming home? I'm like, yep, I'm on my way. I said, no, I'm driving because literally he thought, we're going 5 minutes, but it's the 9-year-old, so right. There's tons of time that has elapsed in his mind. And I get to my driveway, and my husband's truck isn't home. And my heart left my stomach. And that was my bottom. Because he drove with our son, and I called him right away and remained calm. And I said, where are you at? And he said, going down the road feeling bad, and I'll never forget those words. And I said, oh. He says, I'm out of beer. I needed to get more. I said, oh, okay. I said, so, okay, well, I'll see you when you get home, because if I would have got him worked up, he could have started driving faster, so I had to remain calm and keep myself grounded. And when Rhett came in the door, I just almost couldn't hold it together and almost just sobbed. I could cry about it now. Because it's just not right, and it wasn't okay. And I said to myself, my best friend had said to me back in March, and it was something that struck me very, very, very much. And she said, well, you're staying for the kids, right? And I realized right then and there that no, I wasn't. I was staying for me, and that wasn't a good thing. I was the one, that didn't want to lose my husband. I was the one, it was for me that I was staying, and I realized my kids deserve better. I deserve better. This isn't healthy. I'm showing them something that is completely unhealthy every single day. And it broke my heart. And to be very vulnerable on this podcast with you right now, my biggest fear of why I didn't go, my biggest fear was because I was scared he'd make it work with somebody else. And that is not a reason to stay. And and that's when I knew I had to leave, and they accepted the offer on my house, 3 weeks later.
Wow. 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 I'm so touched, moved that you would be that honest. I mean, and let me tell you, all of us can relate. Like, nobody is judging you right now, because that is very, very relatable, what you just said about how we kind of can sometimes trick ourselves into staying by saying it's for the kids. But you're right. A lot of times it's out of fear for us. You know, it's for whatever reason, whether it's somebody else or whatever, we're worried about them. But I love your honesty. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so proud of you. So it's been 4 months. You're in your home. How does it feel now? How do you feel now? How do you feel today?
You know, it's funny because healing doesn't happen in a straight line, and I know that. But I feel good. Every day, you know, it could bring a new challenge, and being a single mom is not easy. I have the kids 95% of the time, and he doesn't really ask for much. So that's good, because he knows he probably can't do it. And, you know, I would rather him not ask for much, knowing he can't do it, than to ask and knowing he's going to be drinking when having them, because that's a rule I have. He's not really following it 100%, but we'll get more into that later and down the road. But I have filed for divorce, so I've started the process.
That's
you know,
exciting.
I just know. Yeah, when you know, you just know. You know that.
Totally.
You just know. Yep. So why I said, why am I fooling around? I've put so much time and effort into these last 18. I want to put I want to put the closure here and just, you know, start the new book, start the new chapter. It's time. And I listen to Eckhart Tolle a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
A New Earth, The Ego, and which is actually in March is when I had started listening to him, and I realized how much of your ego is wrapped up in doing things and the choices that you do make. And I realized that, you know, back when I said I'm staying for myself, that my ego was in the way. So there's just so much I've learned. So just always going back to those different things.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being so honest and vulnerable, and I am incredibly proud of you for leaving, for filing divorce. I completely understand the pushing through when you're trying to make changes, the resistance there that will come at you, but that you were determined and that you were focused and you kept your head down and you kept your dreams in front of you and you didn't give up. That is incredibly courageous. So congratulations to you, and I'm really proud of you. I know your new beginning is going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Michelle.
This podcast is created for your support, encouragement, and entertainment with my personal thoughts and beliefs. We are bonded together by the fact that we love someone suffering from addiction. This is not intended as a substitute for therapy or advice from a professional.